Someone recently sent me an email asking if I only teach government contracting, meaning do I only show companies how to win contracts with government agencies? And my reply was, absolutely not. If we stop there, we'd all be leaving way too much money on the table. These principles apply to every industry. I'm talking real estate development, logistics, healthcare, construction, technology, security, energy, even entertainment. Now, because my background is rooted in being a contracting and procurement officer inside government, we naturally lead from that perspective because it's the most sophisticated and the most scrutinized form of contracting there is. And when you master that level, it automatically translates to everything else. Got it? All right, so now, that being said, let's move on. So, speaking of this, we've got a very powerful monologue ahead that dives deeper into the hidden system controlling wealth, power, and policy. Stay tuned because by the end of this, you will understand exactly how to take your company, your skills, your talents, and your assets and position them to contract with any organization, any industry, or any government agency. Plus, I'm going to share key leadership principles that your proposals and partnerships should always reflect, because contracting, it's not just about paperwork, it's about positioning. And most people chase money, business owners, investors, CEOs, but few of them actually study all of those very, very important and intricate details that contracting officers look for, okay? You watch what's trending, crypto, stocks, real estate, but you never stop to ask, who built the system that decides where the money flows in the first place? Because the truth is, wealth does not start with trends. It starts with systems. And the system that controls most of the world's money is called procurement, the structured way governments and major corporations buy everything they need to run their operations. If you understand that system, you stop chasing money and start positioning yourselves so that you can be in alignment with where the money naturally flows. As always, I am Derrick Green, and I'm the CEO of Sky Acquisitions, LLC, a service-disabled, veteran-owned firm, consulting firm that is, that helps businesses and investors connect directly to government and corporate procurement opportunities. I spent years as a government contracting and procurement officer for the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, Department of Veterans Affairs, and later as a procurement executive right here where I currently live in the city of Houston, and also working with companies that serve the private sector, such as energy, real estate, logistics, and technology markets, all right? So I've sat on both sides of the table, awarding billions in contracts and helping businesses win them. So when I talk about compliance, leadership, and policy, it's not theory, it's the real playbook that controls how wealth moves through the economy, all right? The system people never study. The global economy does not run on emotions, it runs on policy. Government agencies and Fortune 500 companies, they do not follow trends initially. First, they follow compliance standards, and those standards dictate who they can buy from, how they can buy, and what requirements suppliers must meet. They then create advertisements, commercials, which set trends and everything you can think of, from hospital beds to office leases. It moves through a procurement process. So if you are not aligned with those standards, you are invisible to the very organizations that spend trillions every year. Now, let's give some practical application because we want to do that for every example this time. Let's say you own a cleaning business. You could chase random clients every month, or you could learn the janitorial and safety standards used in government buildings and hospitals. Once you meet those standards and register on SAM.gov or whatever that agency's e-procurement tool is, you can bid on a 5 to 7 year contract, for example, that pays consistently, backed by government funds. Or say you run a small IT company. If you follow cybersecurity standards like CMMC or FedRAMP, you immediately qualify to serve defense agencies, and large corporations that are required by law to hire compliant vendors. So if you're an investor, you can fund these kind of businesses, ones already anchored into the procurement pipeline for Fortune 500 companies and government agencies. You don't have to worry about it being speculative because it's guaranteed. And that's what low volatility looks like in the real world. The compliance advantage. Look, compliance isn't just paperwork. It's your entry ticket into the big leagues. So when you can prove you meet the same standards as major agencies and corporations, you move on from being one of many options to being the only safe option, or in some cases, the only option. And compliance says this company doesn't just talk about quality, they document it. This company can protect data, manage teams, and deliver safely. That's what builds trust, and trust builds contracts. Now, let's give some practical examples of that, right? So if you run a construction company, get your people certified under OSHA safety standards and Davis Beacon wage compliance. That makes you eligible for local, state, or federal projects where the government pays on time, every time. Or let's say if you own a transportation company, keep detailed records of driver training, background checks, and vehicle maintenance. That's what FEMA or Amazon looks for before assigning major routes or contracts. If you are a consultant or trainer, build your programs around compliance like leadership, ethics, or diversity training. Companies are required to meet those standards, and your service helps them stay compliant, which makes you essential, not optional. All right? How to anchor into economic wealth. We talk about being anchored, right? When you align with procurement pipelines, you're tapping into pre-allocated capital. That money has already been approved and budgeted by law or by corporate policy. Even during economic downturns, government agencies still have to lease space, buy supplies, and fund programs. Fortune 500 companies still need to meet environmental, workforce, and safety regulations. When you or your business sits in the middle of those pipelines, you don't have to hope the market cooperates. You are connected to where the money is already flowing. Now, let's give some practical examples of this, right? A real estate investor who converts a vacant property into veteran housing through HUD or VA programs earns consistent government-backed income every month. A solar energy company that meets federal sustainability guidelines can win multi-year contracts tied to clean energy legislation already funded for the next decade. Or an IT or cybersecurity firm that meets compliance standards can subcontract under large defense contractors, steady revenue, guaranteed work, and zero guesswork. That's what it means to anchor yourself into wealth systems, not just opportunities. Leadership, accountability, and empathy. Now, let's shift gears a bit, because compliance alone isn't enough. Leadership holds it all together. Strong leadership means accountability and empathy. Accountability keeps operations precise. Empathy keeps your workforce motivated and loyal. If people don't feel seen, they stop caring. And when they stop caring, compliance breaks. Great leadership connects policy with people. That's what turns contracts into long-term relationships. All right? How to apply that? We want to make sure we give application for everything, right? So if you are a manager or CEO, post monthly check-ins with your team. Ask what challenges they face. Ask what challenges they face meeting deadlines or standards, and fix those problems early. That's proactive compliance. If you are leading a small startup, spend 15 minutes each week reviewing progress and celebrate wins. That small gesture builds morale, focus, and accountability. If you manage contractors or partners, lead with empathy. Clear expectations, fair pay, and respect creates loyalty, and loyal teams protect your reputation. Leadership, empathy, and accountability don't just improve culture, they reduce risk, which investors and agencies love. Understanding this next principle is what creates sole source opportunities, meaning the government will come only to you in some instances. The procure to power formula. Here's the formula I teach through Sky Acquisitions and GovCon Empire. Policy plus compliance plus leadership equals predictable wealth. When you align those three, you build a business the government needs, that corporations trust, and that investors can rely on. We call it procure to power, turning compliance into opportunity, empathy into retention, and policy into profit. How is that applied in a practical sense? Let's talk about it. If you're in real estate, lease to government or corporate tenants. These are guaranteed payments with zero volatility. If you are in manufacturing, design products that help clients meet safety or environmental rules. They will trust you first. If you are in consulting or leadership training, align your curriculum with compliance mandates. Now you're solving real business problems tied to policy. Compliance is not just limitation, it's elevation. It's the bridge between policy and profit. Now, as we finally bring this monologue to a close, right? So, if you are serious about building generational wealth, stop guessing where opportunity will appear. Start learning how the systems that move the money are built. Inside GovCon Empire, we teach business owners and investors how to position themselves inside those systems, the same ones used by government agencies and Fortune 500 companies every single day. Because when compliance and leadership meet policy, wealth stops being a gamble and becomes a strategy. Be sure to check out the information in the video description if you'd like to schedule a consultation, or if you are an accredited institutional investor and you are interested in a partnership. Let's build power through alignment, compliance, and empathy. All right, let's get it.